Hi, in this video I'd like to demonstrate how I renew prescriptions which were faxed in from the pharmacy and which I then fax back to the pharmacist, and also it'll demonstrate how I communicate with the pharmacist using a cover sheet and the importance of doing the prescription in the correct way for early refills, especially when dealing with narcotics. So once again, I chose the BCFHT Mendy patient. Now, mind you, this will be more useful for your office environment than clinic environment, as it will be unlikely that we would be renewing prescriptions by fax at the clinic. In my office, I've had Kelly create a partition on one of the computers that the front staff, the administrators use, and it's usually located in this folder. I couldn't do this for the office environment, so I've had my staff put in a few dummy prescriptions into the documents folder of this patient. So let's use an example of clonazepam, because this example will demonstrate a few things. So let's go into the medications part. And this prescription was put in for clonazepam a while back, as I've noticed that some of us are not using the prescription writer properly. And when you don't use it properly, when you do not put in the proper dosing on the prescriptions, as you can see, it kind of does not give you a proper end date, which is important, especially when dealing with narcotics or benzos. When you want to know if this is an early refill or not, because when you do not do the prescription in a correct way, it'll actually just give you a year, and it's unlikely anyone would give a prescription for clonazepam for 1 year. So let's try to renew this prescription. And as you can see, the way this was written is that a lot of physicians are writing, they just put into the SIG, 1 tab BID PRN for should be week anyway, and then just put in the quantity, whichever they want. And this does not tell the EMR the duration of the prescription. It cannot calculate it this way. That's why it's very important when we do any prescription that we try to use the dosage window. So the proper way to do this is 1 tablet and from once a day to BID, and then I can click the PRN button, and then this was for 1 week, so let's do the 1 week prescription, and then click OK. Now I don't need the instructions, SIG instructions, because this has already told the pharmacist exactly what to do. And as you can see, it calculated 14 tablets. Let's say that I've made a mistake and actually want to give this patient longer prescription. Let's say that I want to save me time, I want to give this patient a prescription for clonazepam every 2 weeks, but to save me faxing back and forth, I'm going to give it let's say an 8-week prescription. But when I do a 2-week, it's a 28 tablets. So what I do is please dispense 28 tablets, if I can spell, tabs Q 2 weeks. And then what I do is I go back up, I edit this, and then I put, let's say, for example, 8 weeks. So what this will do is it'll obviously tell the pharmacist that the total number is 112 tablets, but the patient will only get 28 tablets every 2 weeks. And then this will actually calculate your end date, so you'll know exactly if the patient is early or if they're not using as many, and if they're truly using it on an as-needed basis. So then all I do is I click OK, and then I fax. And this patient doesn't have a pharmacy, so usually on on the original fax, it would tell me which pharmacy the patient's using. So all you do is you choose a pharmacy. You can do this, and this has only limited number of pharmacies that I've looked into it. But let's say this is a Shoppers Drug Mart, and then I choose. Let's say Shoppers Drug Mart in Barrie. Let's say that this was the 420S on Ferndale. So I select, and then this is what I wanted to demonstrate as well. If I unclick this, as you can see, that window collapses. I use cover sheets a lot to communicate with the pharmacist, because now I can write down, please, for example, note that this patient is too early for a refill. This prescription will not start until tomorrow, for example. And then when I send this, it'll actually, let's do a preview. As you can see, the first page will be cover sheet, and then it'll give that, the note will be visible to the pharmacist, and then the prescription here is as I wanted it. So let's just cancel that, because we actually don't want to fax it. But now, as you can see, that I've done the prescription, it tells me dispense 28 tablets every 2 weeks, and it actually calculated the end date for all of the 8 weeks. So now when the pharmacist faxes me a prescription, let's say on August the 12th, I know that exactly that is when the prescription ended. So it's important to use that refill dosage calculation window. Let's do another prescription. Let's say there was let's say Cipralex, 20 milligrams. So I go back to Cindy, and I noticed that she was actually on a 10 milligram. And so now, for example, let's renew this. Or actually, no, let's say that, as you can see, the prescription is not even close to the end date, is actually finishing on August the 16th. So I just want to tell the pharmacist, you know what, this is not the correct time to do the refill. You've done it too early, and the patient is actually on a different dose. So all I have to do is print fax the original prescription, so I'm not renewing it. This is just reprinting that prescription. And when I fax it, again, I can choose the pharmacy that I want. I think it was the Shoppers Drug Mart somewhere. So let's just, whichever, let's just assume that was it. And then I can write down for the pharmacist, this prescription is not due for refill until, and then again, I can look here, and this was August the 16th. Many techs don't look at how many refills I do, and this is a common problem, but I can tell exactly. And if you look over at this column, this actually tells me when I've actually faxed the prescription to the pharmacy, or when I've modified it. So then I can say, well, this prescription was actually done today, and you haven't either received it or there's something wrong on your end, and then I just send it. But if I preview, you can actually again see that included the cover sheet, and then this is my note for the pharmacist. So I hope this will encourage you to use the cover sheets more. In fact, there's one more trick I can show you, which might be useful. Let's say that this is a refill for a patient who's moved, and that prescription is not in our system. So there's an easy way to fax things and you don't necessarily need to know the prescription, or you don't necessarily need to have the pharmacy on the list. So let's say that this is a pharmacy somewhere in Bolton, and it's not again on our list. So if I click this, I can actually tell our fax server to fax it to a pharmacy that I want. So let's say this is the Pharma Save Bolton. I have no idea if there is one or not, but then I can tell it, you know, whatever the 705 0011000, let's say that's the number. And then if let's say, for example, well, I made a mistake, this is a long distance, let's say this is a 905 area code, then I can click this and it's a long distance number. And then when I click OK, see, it actually chose that fax that I've just put into fax recipient queue, and then if I were to send it, it will actually go to that pharmacy. And I'm not sure how many of you know, but there's this button here which can show you if some of your prescriptions have actually been faxed or if they have been accepted or not. And we were just told not to delete in the status all, because it'll just delete everybody. But that's also a very useful way to actually, you can actually tell when the fax was received. As you can see here, this fax was received by their fax machine at 8:36 a.m. today. I hope this will be helpful, and have a good day.